Take your ordinary 3-year-old, and you give your ordinary 3-year-old a choice. They can have a bowl of ice cream or a fully paid for college education. What will your 3-year-old choose? The 3-year-old will choose the ice cream every single time, right? What's wrong there? What's wrong there is that they love a lesser good more, and they love a greater good less. The problem is that they have an imperfect kind of love there. They don't yet appreciate the goodness of truth, of knowledge, and so the idea of a fully paid for college education just cannot stand up against that bowl of ice cream, right? So from the time we're very little, we need to be educated not only at the intellectual level, but at the moral level to desire the better things more, and to desire the lesser things less. And all of us sort of notice as we go along in life that we have stages like that, you know. For example, a simple thing. Most people desire to be loved more than they desire to love. They desire to be loved more than they desire to love. But it's actually better and more important to love than to be loved, right? And that's an important stage in our education, to get from wanting to love more than wanting to be loved, right? It's only once you cross that threshold that you're capable of really mature relationships in marriage or whatever else, friendships and whatever. So we need to have an education both at the academic, the intellectual level, and at the moral level. Both of those need to happen. And education in the full sense is going to look at both of those. Now you can't overestimate the role of example in the moral part of the education. Aristotle, he wrote 2 different works on ethics, on morality. Once when he was a young man, and he entitled the first attempt, the Eudaimonian Ethics, which is derived from a Greek word meaning happiness, the happiness ethics, basically. And in that first work, he basically said, well, look, if we want to become good people, we have to just figure out what happiness is, figure out the means to get there, the different virtues, then acquire the virtues and get there, right? That was his sort of idea of how you get happiness. The second time, he rewrote the book as an older man, and he entitled it the Nicomachean Ethics. Now, Nicomachus was his dad. His dad was a doctor. And by the time he got to be an older man, Aristotle realized the essential role that a moral example has to play in order to get that moral education. Moral education can't just be, you study the recipe and you follow it. It's not like making a cake, right? Moral education involves actually following the example of a happy, prudent, wise person in your life who's going to show you the way. It's a lot more like, tramping up Everest and needing someone who's already been there as your guide than it is about following a recipe to make a cake or something like that. Okay? So we need that moral example too as part of our education, our moral education. Okay, so that's just a very broad overview of just what you mean by education. And given that there's so many ways that someone might lead another person from a state of imperfection, whether intellectual or moral, to a state of perfection, is there such a thing as education, simply speaking, in the best sense? It's clear there's different kinds of education. You can have an education in technology, you can have an education in art, you can have an education in science, right? Those are these different things, right? But is there such a thing as education, simply speaking, the kind of education that perfects a man as man, right? Human being as human. And to answer this question, it's absolutely essential that we understand correctly what it is to be a man. What is human nature, right? What is that? Because the perfection of a thing depends upon what kind of thing it is, right? Remember that old musical showboat? Fish gotta swim and birds gotta fly, right? Right? The perfection of a fish is different than the perfection of a bird. If I try and put a bird underwater, it won't get perfected there underwater. If I try and put a fish up in the air, it's not going to get perfected up there, huh? If I, try to perfect a man by letting him, run around in the hills like a horse, that's not going to do it, right? So for each thing, the perfection of that thing, their highest good, their greatest good, is going to depend on what kind of thing they are. So we need to have an accurate understanding of what does it mean to be human, right? And we can look around and say, well, okay, I can identify, from the time you're a little kid, you can identify human beings and separate them out from non-human beings, right? You've got a pretty good idea practically how you separate human beings out from non-human beings. But if I were to ask you, can you tell me what is a human being? Verbally, right? You'd probably give me more of a description than a definition or something like that. You'd probably just say, well, walks on 2 feet, opposable thumb, talks, things like that. Give you a kind of a description of different things that you can use to kind of set apart human beings from other things. But if I ask you what's essential there, you might have a hard time there. Well, we can give first a general answer to the question of what's perfected of human beings, what's perfected of man as man. And the answer to that question, I always manifest to my students, whether they be seminarians or high school students, by a series of questions. I start off and I say to my students, why are you sitting here in my class today, right? And usually my high school students will raise their hands and say, because I want to get a good grade, Father. I say, great, why do you want to get a good grade? And they say, because I want to get into a good college, Father. Great, why do you want to get into a good college? Because I want to get a good job, Father. Why do you want to get a good job? Because I want to make a lot of money, Father. And then I ask them a question that frustrates the heck out of them. Why do you want to make a lot of money? And they're like, but that's the answer to all questions. Everyone wants to make a lot of money, And I say, I have a lot of poverty, I want to make a lot of money. I mean, there's people, I know a lot of people have a lot of money and are really unhappy. Would you want to make a lot of money if it made you unhappy? And they're like, no, but it will.